She used to flinch when she heard his name, Alec Maddox, the man who turned her father's company into a battlefield of egos and lawsuits. The man who looked at her with a smirk, like he knew something she didn't. And worst of all, the man her mother once whispered was dangerous, but devastatingly handsome. Eden Sinclair had every reason to hate him, and she did. Until the night he kissed her. It started in the firelight, a charity gala thrown in the ruins of a former rivalry. Maddox Tech and Sinclair Dynamics now under one roof, merged under pressure and pain. She wore red that night, not to be noticed, but to feel untouchable. But he noticed her anyway. "You clean up well," he said, whiskey in hand, gaze like a heat wave against her skin. "I wasn't trying to impress you," he smirked. "That's why you did." God, she wanted to slap that arrogance off his face, but instead, she turned. Let him watch her walk away. She'd made peace with keeping her distance. But fate, twisted and cruel, had other plans. Later, in the garden behind the hall, she found him again. Or maybe he found her. It didn't matter. The music was faint, the air heavy with late summer roses, and her shoes dangled from one hand. "You always this stubborn?" Alec asked, leaning on the stone wall beside her. She didn't look at him. "You always this invasive?" "Only when I want something." She laughed once, short and sharp. "Of course, another acquisition." "No." He stepped closer. "Just wondering why you hate me so much when your eyes tell a different story." She turned sharply. "My eyes, they flare when you see me. Every time. I've seen them burn. I've seen them soften. But never ignore." His voice was low now, serious, closer. She felt it in her chest. "You think this is a game?" she whispered. "No," he said, stepping even closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne musk and fire and danger. "I think this is war. And I want to lose." That should have been the moment she walked away. Instead, she stayed. Her breath hitched when his hand gently brushed a strand of hair behind her ear, lingering against her cheek just a second longer than necessary. "I hate you," she whispered. But it cracked. "No," he whispered back. And then he kissed her. And everything she swore she wouldn't feel crashed. His lips were rough, firm, desperate, like he was kissing her with years of restraint finally broken. She responded without thought, with every nerve, every ache, every suppressed want that had curled inside her since the first time he made her furious. Her arms wrapped around his neck before she could stop herself. His hands cupped her waist, then slid down her back, anchoring her to him as though letting go would kill him. She moaned into his mouth, a sound that shocked them both. The kiss deepened. Her back hit the stone wall. The air turned hot, stifled, thick with wanting. His lips left hers only to trail down her jaw, to the hollow of her neck, where he breathed her in like salvation. "Tell me to stop," he whispered against her skin. She didn't. She couldn't. Instead, her hands slipped beneath his jacket, fingers trailing heat against the fine fabric of his shirt. He shuddered when her lips found the corner of his mouth, then his neck. "I still hate you," she whispered. "You're lying," he murmured, tilting her chin up to kiss her again, slower this time, deeper, as though he wanted to memorize her taste. And maybe she was lying. Or maybe hate had never burned like this before, because the way he touched her now gently, reverently, like she was something breakable and wild all at once. Felt nothing like hate. It felt like danger. It felt like drowning in something she swore she'd never touch. She pulled away only when the lights from the ballroom spilled across the garden, voices echoing just beyond the hedge. "We shouldn't," she breathed. He nodded, his forehead pressed to hers. "But we will." And that was the moment Eden Sinclair knew. Whatever this was, it wasn't over. Not even close. Eden didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed, her lips still tingling with the ghost of Alec's kiss. Her mind kept replaying the heat of his mouth, the weight of his hands, the way her body had leaned into his without permission. It wasn't just lust, though, that alone would have been dangerous. It was something darker, something more consuming. She hated him. She had to, right? The next morning, she walked into the boardroom with a blazer sharp enough to cut through tension, and God, there was tension. Alec was already there, sitting at the head of the table like a king in a den of knives. Their eyes met for half a second, long enough to feel the kiss again. His lips curled barely. He didn't say a word, neither did she, but her body betrayed her with every heartbeat. The meeting passed in numbers and strategy, but Eden could feel his gaze on her like static. Every time she reached for a pen, every time she crossed her legs. And when the room finally cleared, and it was just the two of them left, silence thickened the air like fog before a storm. "I didn't think you'd come," he said, finally. "I work here," she replied, dry. He rose slowly, coming around the table. "That's not what I meant." She stood her ground as he stopped in front of her, just close enough to make her breath catch. "You kissed me," she said. "We were drunk on something. Doesn't mean anything." "Did it feel like nothing?" he asked. "No." It had felt like gravity had shifted. "I won't be one of your conquests," she said, stepping back. "I never asked you to be." His voice lowered. "But I haven't stopped thinking about you. Not since that night. Not since that kiss. Not since before that kiss." She turned away, but he followed. His hand caught her wrist, not harsh, just firm. "I know you hate me," he whispered, "but I think maybe you hate how much you want me." Her mouth parted, ready to deny it. But then his fingers slid to her lower back, pulling her gently, but deliberately against his chest. Her heart thundered that she should stop him, but her fingers were already clutching his shirt. When he kissed her again, it wasn't like the garden. It was neat, raw, built from days of denial and years of disdain. She responded with fire. Their lips clashed, bruising, hungry, no more words between them. His hands slid under her blazer, fingertips skating across the bare curve of her lower back. She gasped into his mouth as he pressed her against the conference table, lifting her effortlessly to sit atop it. Eden moaned when he parted her thighs with his hips, his hands cupping her face, his kiss devouring. Her hands found his belt. Her blazer slid off her shoulders. His tie loosened. They were no longer rivals, they were storms meeting in the sky. Thunder and lightning in human skin. "Tell me to stop," he whispered again, voice ragged, his forehead resting against hers. "I can't," she breathed. "God help me, I don't want you to." The rest was instinct. Clothes pushed aside just enough. Her thighs wrapped around him. Her breath caught as he slid into her slowly, achingly. His hands trembled against her back as their foreheads pressed together. Eyes locked. It wasn't fast. It wasn't rushed. It was dangerous, slow, intimate. He moved inside her like he was trying to memorize her. Every breath, every moan, every shiver. She bit her lip to keep quiet, but he kissed it free. "Let me hear you," he whispered, voice thick with hunger. "Let me feel all of it." And she did. She let go. Her hands clawed at his shoulders. Her body arched. Her soul cracked open. And when release came, it rolled through her like thunder in her bones. Her cry muffled against his neck. He followed with a groan that made her tremble all over again. After, they stayed like that, pressed together, hearts wild, breaths uneven. No words, no more hate, only the sound of something beginning where hate had once lived. And still, Eden knew this wasn't over. This was only the first time. The real war would begin when the sun came up, and she'd have to face what she did, what she wanted, who she was becoming. When he touched her, Eden didn't speak to Alec for 3 days. She couldn't, because if she did, she'd fall again. She'd already crossed too many lines. Her body had betrayed her. Her heart, something she once believed immune to power plays, now pulsed to the rhythm of a man she once loathed. The shame wasn't in the act. It was in how much she craved more of it, of him. But craving didn't mean surrender. She'd convinced herself of that. Until he showed up at her apartment door on a rain-slick Thursday evening. No text, no call, just him, dripping rainwater onto her marble foyer, his shirt clinging to his skin, his gaze burning through her defenses. "I shouldn't be here," he said. "Then leave," she whispered. But neither of them moved. She wore a silk robe, and nothing beneath it. He noticed, of course he did, but didn't comment, didn't touch her, not yet. "I tried to stay away," he said, voice low and wet with regret. "I thought maybe it would pass, that it was just the heat of that night. That maybe I imagined how you looked at me. You didn't." That one confession slipped past her lips like breath, like weakness. Alec exhaled, stepping in, closing the space between them like gravity answering a prayer. "I want to know what's real," he said, brushing a damp lock of hair from her cheek. "Not just hate, not just the fire. You." Her heart thudded in her chest. "You shouldn't trust me," she said, eyes fixed on his mouth. He tilted her chin up with 2 fingers. "That makes 2 of us." Then he kissed her. And just like that, the war resumed. His kiss wasn't urgent like before. It was slow, deliberate, claiming, as though he knew she'd yield. And he wanted to enjoy every second of her surrender. Her robe slipped open as his hands roamed, fingertips gliding along the curves he'd memorized in his dreams. She let him. No words, no conditions, just skin against skin, the quiet rustle of silk falling to the floor, and the soft click of the door shutting the world out. They moved through her apartment in a blur of heated limbs and stolen moans, their mouths never far apart, their touches laced with something more than lust. He lifted her with ease, carried her to the bedroom like she weighed nothing, and laid her gently on the sheets like a secret he wasn't ready to share with the world. Eden arched beneath his mouth as he kissed her collarbone, her ribs, her hips, every part of her he'd never had permission to worship. He moved like a man starving for absolution, and she let him feed. Her fingers tangled in his damp hair as he tasted her, inch by inch, his lips finding the softest parts of her body and coaxing gasps from her lips with every slow pass of his tongue. She was open to him in every way, heart, body, soul, and when his mouth finally found the place that made her cry out, she didn't hide from the sound. She let it echo. He groaned against her when she trembled, her body convulsing around his mouth, her legs gripping his shoulders like chains. God, she whispered, shivering as he kissed his way back up her body. You'll ruin me. I hope so, he whispered against her throat, lining himself up with her. Because I'm already ruined for you. Then he entered her slow, thick, deep. Her breath caught. They moved together like they'd done this 1,000 times in 100 lives. His hips pressed against hers with rhythmic, aching thrusts. He filled her completely, body and something more, something she didn't dare name. Her hands clutched his back. Her nails scraped skin. Their eyes met, and for the first time, they didn't look away. She saw him in that moment. Not the enemy, not the heir. Just Alec, the man who knew how to unravel her. And he saw her, not the legacy, not the armor. Just Eden, the woman who, when she let go, was fire. Their climax hit like a wave dragged from the core of them both. She cried out his name as he buried himself deeper, spilling inside her, with a groan that shook his bones. After, they stayed tangled limbs, breath, hearts until the sweat cooled on their skin and the world started to seep back in. She lay, with her head on his chest, listening to the thud of his heart. This can't keep happening, she whispered. Why not? Because it's not just sex anymore. He stroked her hair, silent. Because I don't know how to hate you and want you at the same time, she said. He kissed her forehead. Then stop trying to hate me. Eden didn't reply. But, deep inside her, something shifted. Because no matter how hard she fought it, she was already his. Eden didn't see Alec the next day, or the one after. And for once, she wasn't sure if it was relief or grief that knotted in her stomach. Because now she'd tasted something more than hate, more than lust. She'd tasted what it felt like to matter, to be touched without calculation, to be kissed like a prayer and ruined like a promise. But that feeling had a price, didn't it? And in her world, feelings rarely survived the fall dots, so she buried it, just like she always did, until her father's voice thundered through her office. You were with him, weren't you? The door slammed behind him. He tossed a manila envelope onto her desk like a grenade. Inside photos. Her, Alec, in her apartment, kissing, undressed, together. She didn't deny it. Do you have any idea what this will do to us? Her father growled. He's the reason we almost lost everything. And now you're in his bed. I'm not a pawn, Dad, she said, standing tall despite the pounding in her chest. He stepped closer. No, you're my daughter. And you just slept with the man who tried to dismantle our legacy. That word, legacy. It felt like chains. When he finally stormed out, Eden sat there frozen. She stared at the photos, not at the way Alec touched her, but at the expression on his face. It wasn't lust. It wasn't conquest. It was something terrifyingly close to love. And maybe that's why what happened next shattered her. Because that evening, she got a call from someone on the board. An accidental slip of the tongue, a contract passed too soon, a deal brokered behind closed doors. Maddox Tech was preparing a buyout of the remaining Sinclair shares. Eden's blood ran cold. The merger had been neutral, mutually beneficial, but a full acquisition, that was war. And Alec had known. She drove to his apartment in the rain, headlights cutting through the storm, betrayal screaming inside her like thunder. When he opened the door, his eyes softened instantly. "Eden, don't!" Her voice cracked. "Don't you dare say my name like you didn't just sell me out." Confusion crossed his face. "What are you talking about?" "I know about the buyout." Her voice was sharp, shaking. "You planned it while you were in my bed. You were carving out the last of my family's power. Is this what you do? Sleep with your enemies before you finish the kill?" Alex stepped back, stunned. "No, I didn't, Eden. I swear to you I wasn't part of that deal." She laughed, bitter. "How convenient. You think I touched you just to gain leverage?" His voice rose now, desperate. "You think I held you like that and faked it? I don't know what was real anymore." She screamed, voice breaking. He crossed the room, gripping her shoulders. "This is real," he said, eyes burning. "What I feel for you, this is the only damn thing that's felt real in years. I didn't ask for it. I didn't plan for it. But I can't stop it. And I sure as hell wouldn't destroy you." Her jaw clenched, lips trembling. "Then prove it." He didn't hesitate. He pulled her into him, crashing his mouth to hers like he was trying to erase the distance between guilt and desire. She fought him at first, palms against his chest, angry, shaking, but then his lips found her neck, his voice breaking. "I didn't lie to you," he whispered. "Not about us. Not for a second." And suddenly her hands curled into his shirt, yanking him closer, kissing him like she wanted to hurt him and need him at once. Clothes came off in pieces, angry, raw, trembling. Her nails raked his skin. His fingers dug into her waist. He lifted her to the counter, her legs wrapped around him like chains. "Tell me this isn't real," he growled, sliding into her with a gasp that cracked her open. She couldn't, because the way he moved, slow, aching, reverent even in the chaos, wasn't the way you used someone. It was the way you begged them to believe you, and despite the rage, despite the betrayal, her body answered him. Her moans tore through the air. Her hips met his with abandon, their breath tangled, their tears mixed. And when her climax took her, she clung to him like forgiveness. Afterward, they stood in silence, skin to skin, hearts still racing. "I want to believe you," she whispered, eyes closed. "But if I'm wrong again, it'll break me." He kissed her forehead, lips trembling. "Then I'll spend every damn day proving I never wanted to break you." The boardroom lights were too bright. Eden sat at the long glass table, her father two seats to the left, shoulders stiff with anger. Executives lined the perimeter, their silence deafening. At the head sat Alec Maddox, not the man who kissed her, like he'd bleed for her. No, this was the businessman, the heir, the predator. At least that's what she told herself as she stared him down across polished wood. And betrayal. She hadn't spoken to him since that night, since he swore she was real, since he made love to her with desperation and truth and trembling fingers, since he promised he'd prove it. But when the acquisition papers were delivered that morning, there was his name and hers. Because somewhere in the middle of that night, between the sheets and the storm, she'd signed, not a contract, her soul dot, and now, this was her punishment. Before we finalize, Alex said, his voice steady, there's one amendment to the terms. Eden narrowed her eyes. He opened a folder, slid it forward, then stood. In light of recent events, he said, I'm rescinding the acquisition. Maddox Tech will relinquish all controlling interest in Sinclair Dynamics, effective immediately. Gasps filled the room. Eden's father stood up. What game are you playing? No game, Alex said. Gaze locked on Eden now. I'm making a choice. Eden's lips parted, breath caught in her chest. Because she saw it then how tired he looked, not defeated, but done, with power, with posturing, with pretending he didn't want her more than the entire goddamn empire. He turned to the board. I won't destroy the woman I love just to win. This isn't a negotiation. It's a decision. Then, without another word, he walked out. The room erupted in voices. Eden stood, chair screeching back. She didn't hear what her father said. She didn't care. She ran down the corridor, through the lobby, into the cold wind outside, where Alec was walking into the storm alone. Alec, she called. He stopped. Turned. His face so open, so red nearly broke her. You gave it all up, she said, walking toward him, eyes wide. I told you, he said softly. I'll spend every day proving I'd never break you. And what if I'm the one who does? He stepped closer. Then I'll let you. She exhaled, tears spilling now. I've hated you for so long, she whispered. Then hate me, he said, brushing her cheek with his thumb. Hate me with your hands, with your mouth, with every breath you've got left. Just don't walk away. And then God. Then he kissed her, not like a lover, like a promise, like a vow written on skin and sealed with breath. His hands cupped her face, her waist, pulling her into him like he couldn't bear even a sliver of distance. The kiss wasn't rushed. It was sacred. The kind of kiss that unraveled years of bitterness in a single press of lips. Eden melted into him. The wind howled. Cars passed. But the world blurred. There was only his mouth, his breath, the steady drum of his heart beneath her hands. They broke apart only when the kiss grew too deep, when their bodies began to tremble with the weight of everything unspoken. Come with me, he whispered. No contracts, no power games, just US. She hesitated. Then she nodded. Because in that moment, it didn't matter who won or who lost. What mattered was the man in front of her. The man who had every reason to walk away, and instead chose her. The beach house was quiet, the only sound the soft rhythm of waves. Eden stood at the balcony in nothing but his shirt, sunlight kissing her bare legs. Alec walked up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist, pressing a kiss to her shoulder. You ever miss it? She asked. The power. He smiled. Not when I've got this view. Me or the ocean. He leaned in, lips brushing her ear. You. She turned in his arms, her hands resting on his chest. You know I still hate how good you are at this. I'm not, he said. I just finally learned what matters. She kissed him, then slow, deep, claiming. And when they fell into bed, It wasn't about proving anything. It was about belonging. Two enemies. Two lovers. One kiss that changed everything. The end.